Looking at the title of the book, I'm reminded of my twins yesterday. They got into the car, and Ada immediately pointed at Aiden. My little girl pointed at my little boy and said, "Aiden bit someone." And I turned to Aiden, "Did you bite someone?" "Casey took my hat." That's all he would tell me. "Casey took my hat." Aiden bit someone, Casey took my hat. At that point, I'm in a quandary. What do I do? Where do I go from here? Why wasn't Aiden telling me the whole truth? Well, the note from the teacher explained the whole truth. Someone had taken Aiden's hat and he had bitten them in retaliation. That was the truth, right? There's my objective authority. Ada's purpose in telling me that was to get her brother in timeout. Being the loving, doting sister she is, it does her some pleasure to see Aiden sitting in timeout. Aiden, on the other hand, wasn't going to tell me that he had bitten someone and condemn himself. Now, what does all this have to do with the clash of civilizations? I don't know. They were tearing up my notes while they were doing this whole argument. It struck me that Huntington's doing the same thing to us. Huntington's been labeled by Stephen Walt as a master of the scholarly soundbite. Now, it's interesting, the scholarly soundbite in this case is 300 pages long and has 20 pages of notes, but I'd argue it's a soundbite nonetheless. I think you would agree. To attempt to cover African civilization in 10 pages, 20 pages, 30 pages is the soundbite. Nonetheless, in doing this, he necessarily leaves out some information. He has to. There's no question about it. And at that point, being the English major I am, I guess, I have to ask why. What are you hiding from me? I guess that has more to do with my distrustful nature than anything else. What are you hiding from me? Why does Huntington leave out certain things, and why does he include in certain things? What is he trying to promote? What is he trying to accomplish? Has already been said here today in multiple articles, the overwhelming response to his book in many cases is, so what? Sometimes civilizations who aren't the same clash. That's no great revelation to me, and I get most of my information on civilization from friends. What is the purpose in showing us that in those terms? And that's where I would like to begin. What is Huntington trying to tell us, and why? I think it goes back to a topic that's been brought up twice already, is that Huntington is speaking from a distinctly Western perspective, and we have to remember that throughout. At one point, he shows us his hand. He tells us states in recent years have lost power. Well, yes, Western states have lost power. And I'm not a socioeconomist, but I would assume that, on the other hand, traditional colonies have, at the same time, regained some power. I hope I'm correct in that assumption. He is speaking to us from the Western civilization mindset. When he talks to us about what distinguishes civilizations, the one characteristic he points to time and again is religion. But instead of telling us how that religion shapes the civilization, how the people interact, how that religion interacts with the economy, he instead points to it as evidence of a revival of anti-Westernism in non-Western countries. What he's done is dismissed these people's spiritual experience, their cultural experience, and to some extent, I really want to qualify that, told us they're doing it to irritate us. Now, of course, that's an oversimplification. The message is there. Religion is placed within the context of the Western perspective, the Western view of that religion. Once again, why is he telling us this? What has he left out? He points time and again throughout the book to political leaders who extol cultural and civilizational values. But as one author points out, he never questions why those leaders are extolling those values, or if they're willing to back those values up with blood and treasure, is I think the term that is used. Huntington has an agenda. There's a definite agenda to the work. Now the question is the agenda simply to maintain tenure at Harvard, or is it to give us a better understanding, help us put our house in order, as one author suggests? Is it trying to explain to us how we need to put our house in order? He time and again overlooks the fact that we are losing power. Nevertheless, the anti-Westernism he points to reflects a defensiveness, a concern on the part of other civilizations. The very fact that they're anti-Western implies they feel some sort of threat from Western society. What kind of questions does that raise for his model? Huntington's point of view, then, is shaped and limited by his Western upbringing, which is fine. Mine is too, I assume. But in trying to explain the movement of civilizations, in trying to explain how these civilizations, or predict, is probably more accurate, how these civilizations are going to respond to one another, at some point he's going to have to be able to step outside of that civilization and understand why, as he says, Islam is bloody. Why is that the case? A broad generalization that that is not explained within the context of their religion. Instead, it's explained from the Western context. It seems bloody to us. I would suggest that that the work is tied intricately to his audience. Anwar suggests in his article that's going to be published that this is written in layman's terms. That must be me. I can't balance my checkbook, much less determine the fate of civilizations on the world economy. If he's writing to the layman, he leaves out essential information. He quotes part of Toynbee and overlooks another part of Toynbee, a part of Toynbee's theory that disagrees with his theory. Who is his audience? His audience seems to be a group who perceives a loss of power, a group who feels under attack. He constantly appeals. Another term from Anwar is, and I can't find it. Another term from Anwar, what was it, Anwar? I told you before. Plundered voice. A group who feels that we've been plundered somehow, that we're under threat. My concern then is so what? My concern with this is not that it can predict future courses, but the effect it has on the audience. What is the so what to this work? Aiden almost had me convinced he didn't bite anyone until I saw that note. Otto's not a very reliable witness, right? He almost had me convinced. He had almost achieved his objective of getting me to behave in a certain manner. Huntington's doing the same thing. The man is eloquent, he's well-informed, much better educated than I could ever hope to be. His knowledge of world history, world affairs, world civilizations, world economies, world religions is intimidating, I think was Carl's term. Again, reading this and thought, Anwar setting me up. I don't know what I did to him, but it's a setup. Nevertheless, an agenda is there. This paranoia that Anwar points to in Clash of Civilizations is real. And it's dangerous in that by following this model, our enemies become easily identifiable. By following this model, we're able to predict future enemies. Not based on how we've responded to them in the past, not based on how we can respond to them right now, but how they look, what they believe, whether or not they share our backgrounds. My concern with the book, and of course Carl contradicted this as a scientist, my concern is that it reinforces traditional prejudices. It reinforces xenophobia. Those foreigners must be dangerous. And ultimately, the so what of the work is, what is the effect it has on this audience? What is the ultimate influence this is going to have over its readers, like me, whose knowledge is limited, like me, who are gullible, like me, who are ignorant of the world affairs. We're going to be left believing or fearing, possibly even worse, acting out of fear, that somehow this future world that he is describing is openly hostile, antagonistic towards the West. And I'm